Hey everyone, it's Todd Cohen. Good morning from a cold and, in the first time in 5 years, I can actually say snowy Philadelphia. Now, I'm a little upset because my guest and my good friend Gene Marks, who actually lives in Philadelphia, wisely made the decision. I'm not sure quite how he managed to work the timing out. Is actually, where are you, Gene? In Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
In Sanibel. We drove down 20 hours with the dog. We've been down here for almost 6 weeks, and highly recommend it to anybody. The weather's been beautiful. How's it going in Philly?
How did you manage to figure out that we were going to have this snowstorm? Any idea?
I know, really timed it in advance, but it has been it was a good decision to make it. And I'm going to tell all of you guys watching this right now, if you come down to Florida, it's like going back in time. It's 2019 here. Everybody's partying. Nobody's wearing masks. All the restaurants are open. It's like, I don't know. It's 2019 here. It's crazy.
Well, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but we won't.
Neither am I.
We won't even get into that conversation. Yeah. So everybody, welcome to my good friend. Am I allowed to say that, Gene? My good friend, Gene Marks, who I have known through the National Speakers Association, and then beyond the National Speakers Association. I've always wanted to be Gene when I grow up. I'm still hoping for that day one day. So, Gene, I could read your bio. The accolades are as long as both my arms. Just tell us, how many things are you writing for right now? I know you're doing a podcast. I'm doing a Toddcast. You're doing a podcast with the Hartford.
Right.
Talk to us. Tell me what you're up to.
Well, I have 2 jobs, right? So, number one is I run a company outside of Philadelphia, and we sell CRM systems, customer relationship management systems. Right. So we do 5 of them, Todd, and we are the 5 are like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, Zoho, Pipedrive, it's a new one we just took on, and Goldmine, which is like an old school CRM. We got about 600 clients. We serve them, do all the implementation. So that's a big part of me paying my bills. And then I also do a lot of writing. So I'm writing every week for the Philadelphia Inquirer, for the Guardian, for the Hill, for the Washington Times, for Forbes, and for Entrepreneur. And I write on public policy, economics, trends that affect businesses, small and medium-sized businesses. I laugh because, Todd, I write for the Guardian actually twice a week, which is to the left of Karl Marx. And then I write for the Washington Times, which is like to the right of Mussolini. And somehow I come in the middle of all of that because we're just talking about what things that affect, running a small business. So that's really sort of like the main stuff that I do. And yes, I host a podcast for the Hartford, which comes out a few times a month, where we just talk about different, issues affecting small businesses and success stories among the small business community. So join us. It's the Hartford Small Biz Ahead podcast.
All right, now, awesome, because
now we got all that out of the way.
You are so busy, it is just crazy. And look, you and I are both, our passion is professional speaking. We speak to a lot of the same audiences, actually. So let me get into the meat of what I want to ask you. The first thing is, I've read a lot of your stuff. I always read your stuff, and pandemic, COVID, pandemic. Let's face it, it's been in our consciousness, that and politics.
There's been a theme this year.
Yeah, there's been a theme, since over a year ago. Now, here's my question. What are the 2 or 3 biggest things that have changed other than, well, let me back up. Let me ask the question differently.
Okay.
When the pandemic first started, let's say a little bit less than a year ago, it's hard to believe it's only been 10 months.
I know.
Or 11 months since this all went down.
I know.
Now that we're sitting here 11 months later, what's the outlook for small business? What is the outlook for people like me and you, entrepreneurs, and more like me, a solopreneur? So
I have never been more bullish about small businesses and more positive. I still think that we've got a couple months of rough waters while people get vaccinated. And I'm really thrilled that the government is focused on getting people vaccinated, among other things. So, but Todd, I have to tell you, from the medical people that I talk to, which includes my sister, who's very well involved in the whole program, across the board, my understanding is by the summertime, by the end of June, early July, anybody who wants a vaccination will have had, the availability to get one. The people that don't won't. So that's a really good thing. So the business owners that have been able to pivot and innovate, and there have been plenty. I mean, I've learned a lot from this pandemic that are still around. Those are gonna prosper like in a significant way. And I think that once we hit the middle of this year, I think we're going to be looking at a big boom in this economy. I do not buy into people aren't going to be traveling or people aren't going to be going to conferences or that. I think that's absolutely false.
I do.
I think people they want to get out there and they want to travel. I think they want to spend their money. The savings rate in the US right now is about 13%, which is double the normal savings rate. And our household wealth across the country. And I'm not putting aside there are a lot of people that are suffering, don't get me wrong, but the average household wealth across the country is the highest level it's been since 1975. So that's a lot of pent-up spending that's out there.
Yeah, so you bring up some really good points, right? I mean, obviously you do, because this is what you spend your life studying and writing on, and you're like one of the 3 people on this planet that I follow, because you do have such an egalitarian and wide-ranging view of things, right? You don't necessarily, plant your flag in any one particular place, which I appreciate, and I think is so rare today, Gene. Now, so as a speaker, I've had to reinvent my business, right? I mean, there's no question about it. I think the majority of speakers are still having a lot of trouble figuring out how to do it. When this all went down, I bought the green screen. I just figured out how to do it, and I became a Zoom expert. Although I am not an expert by any stretch, and I am.
I got to interrupt you. I got to interrupt you. You're giving that speech. Yes, you. I mean, I've seen what you have done, and you get it. And honestly, I mean, I have met a lot of speakers who don't get it. Like they are still giving their presentations on a webcam, like I'm using right now. Right. I don't consider this to be a presentation. I consider this to be a conversation. They won't invest. They have not pivoted. You walk around the city of Philadelphia, these restaurant owners have spent money and investments in building all of their outdoor things.
The bubbles.
These retailers, right? They've invested they expanded on e-commerce. E-commerce has increased anywhere from 35 to 45% this year because of all these small business owners reinvesting in their businesses and pivoting. And you did the exact same thing. You put money out, you built a studio inside of your home, and you are giving these quality, engaging presentations. And by the way, this will be a long-term benefit for you. Now, I did something different, because I don't want to deal with, I can't even imagine the headaches that you have had setting this thing up. And even when we were getting this thing and like the microphone wasn't working, I would go insane and stuff like that. So I partnered with a studio in Philadelphia, and all the presentations I've been doing, and I've done, I don't know, 20 or 30 of them just in the past 6 months. I just go to the studio and they just do it all. I pay them, I build that into my fees. And then I show up and I speak, because that's what I know how to do. But my point is that the smart speakers, I think, have pivoted like smart business owners. They've made changes, they've made investments, and they don't feel sorry for themselves. They're not doing things the old ways. And there are a lot of great technologies out there that you can use. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So we're going to get to the technologies in a second, because I think that's really important. Because the one thing I've seen is everybody's doing a podcast now. It's like I can't even keep up, right? I mean, if I really were serious about this Toddcast, I would be doing it 3 times a week. I just don't have the energy for it. I'm doing too many other things, right? I'm booking live gigs. And I appreciate all the kind words. And here's what I'm really getting at. From a speaker's perspective, and you and I are both professional speakers,
right?
What I'm hearing from my customers, my clients, is they can't wait to get to an event again. They're so sick of Zoom fatigue, online fatigue. I spoke to a client yesterday, and she said, "This is my 9th online conversation today. My jaw hurts, my back hurts. I hate this. I just want to be away from everything." What's your perspective on people, this what I think is pent up demand to get back into the world and have live events again? I
think it's absolutely going to happen. I think that I think human beings want to interact with each other. They like going to events. I don't know, Todd, I'm in the media, so I know about all the falsehoods that go on in the media. And, the media likes to make its money by terrifying people or by making predictions that, right. And people aren't going to travel again or go to conferences. if you're a speaker, that's not the case. Having said that, I think what of the many, many things that business owners have learned, like speakers, is that there are other ways now to make money. And this virtual thing, you're doing this virtual thing right now, Todd. My belief is that you are going to be out speaking as often as you were before. However, you now have another market of people that will hire you to do just what you're doing right now. They're going to pay you less, but who cares? You're in your home right now. So instead of getting X dollars for being away for 3 days, you'll get, a portion less, but still plenty for you just to like walk into your studio in your home and do your thing for an hour and then, walk out. The smart, and that's how I look at it. Like there are a lot of people that have not hired me in the past because they couldn't afford the fees. Now we're going back to them and saying, listen, clearly this virtual thing, it works. People are using it. It's completely acceptable. It's whatever. The smart organizations are putting together a virtual arm of their conferences. And I said, all right, instead of paying me X, pay me Y, and I'll just do this remotely for you. And at least you get me and whatever. The other thing, one final thing is, you were mentioning about people complaining, oh, my back hurts, I'm talking into my webcam, whatever. Look at you right now. You are standing as if you're giving a presentation. Do you know what I mean?
Studio. It's my stage.
You move around, man. Yeah, you're doing your thing. And that's the way I felt like when I go into the studio in Philly, they've got 2 cameras, not just one. So they switch between the 2. And I'm just like, I'm standing, I'm walking around. I'm like Jim Cramer on Mad Money, like kind of thing. And so I'm not getting bored, or I'm not like, my back isn't hurting or whatever. I'm like, it's if I'm on stage. Except
there's another camera angle, but I just don't have the green screen big enough yet to cover the room. And, I don't live in a mansion, so I've actually had to use my office / spare bedroom / whatever. And what I really want to do is paint that back wall green, but I think my wife is going to have my head if I try to do that. And my lovely, beautiful Karen. So, so here's another question for you, Gene, that I'm really anxious for your opinion on. When this started, I think that there were a gazillion people out there who said, wow, we can shut all our real estate down. We can send everybody home forever. We can save money, which I happen to think is the worst short-term decision.
Bullshit.
Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Well, no, I mean, I'm hoping you were going to validate my point. And I want my audience to know, I did not ask Gene any questions in advance. He did not know what was coming.
No.
He has opinions all over the board.
Well,
that's what I love about the guy. And we both love corned beef at Schlessinger's. But anyhow.
Well, let me tell you why I think that's crazy is that since 2005, I have ran a virtual company. Okay. So we've been doing the whole work from home thing. We don't have offices. So let me tell you what real life is like at a virtual company. We are the world's most dysfunctional company. I mean, I've got people all over the place. We never see each other. We, they come, they go, they're, whatever. Now listen, okay. Yeah. My overhead is low, but we're not a team. We lose out on that. We lose out on innovation. We lose out on sharing ideas. That's the model that I have, and they're good, but then they're bad to it. When people say like, oh, they're going to shut down offices and all that, it's just such nonsense. What I know is that finally, all of those millennials, Todd, who have been begging for work from home and remote working, options, and their employers like my age are like, no, that won't work, whatever. Now the employers have had to do it. And they're like, oh my God, this stuff actually works. Who knew? I mean, right? So the millennials are right all along. And what we're going to see now is that any company, just like they're offering health insurance and retirement plans, every good company will have a work from home program. I mean, it's just a given. It's going to be a required benefit. And sure, so employees, that means that they can work from home maybe 2 days a week or something like that. But we're going to want them to come in the office. We do want to see their faces. We do want to talk to them.
Well, and that's what I'm getting at, right? I mean, that's what I'm getting at. I want to make sure that people haven't lost sight of the big picture that you may save money on real estate, but your healthcare costs for emotional depression, overeating, alcoholism. I mean, if anybody looked at my trash on trash day, they'd think I was in AA. I'm not kidding you. I mean, our alcohol, and I'm not.
I hear you.
But I'm heavier than I have been. We're not. We're trying to be more fit. My wife is doing a much better job at it than I am. And I think what worries me so much is that there is no long-term cost savings to this. I can see, yes, you want to work home one day a week, have at it.
Sure.
And I also think, and I'm curious on your opinion on this as well, from a legal perspective, there's so much happening, court cases and legal proceedings and HR. And, to me, there's going to be a world of case law that hasn't even yet begun to be born or written about, well, wait a minute, who was in that room when we made that judgment? I'm sorry. Who was actually within earshot? Well, wait a minute, maybe, things like this. And I'm not a lawyer, I play one on TV, but that's as close as I come. What's your thought on that? Other long-term ramifications.
I think that's a really interesting thought. I like your mental health point as well. I also think that when people talk about work from home, the best example you can look at is WeWork. WeWork was destined for the graveyard, right? They're this remote working. They were apparently mismanaged. They were like, in this whole work from home thing, you'd be like, the first people are going to go are like companies like WeWork that have these like, these all who's going to the office anymore.
Yeah, they're going to go through the roof.
Yeah, they're through the roof. They're planning it. They're going public soon. They said that they're going to be profitable, like starting next quarter. And the reason why is because people are coming back, and a lot of companies now are, they're changing the way they're looking at their real estate. They might lease a few less square feet in the corporate headquarters, but now they're going to WeWork and they're leasing square footage with WeWork facilities for their employees to go to when they work out of the office. In other words, it's still getting them out of the office. You know what I mean? Right. The other thing to keep in mind is that in the third quarter of this past year, there was the highest level of startup applications filed with than in the past 20 years. And the reason why is because so many people were working from home. Apparently all those corporate employees that are so slammed and busy all the time, apparently they're not as busy as we think, because they seem to be able to find some time to like start up little businesses on the side, while they're working from home. And I think you're going to see an explosion of startups over the next couple of years, and they're going to need workspace as well. They can't all do that from their house, from their home.
So what's your perspective on, I do a lot of work in franchises, and you've actually opened up some wonderful doors for me over the years. And, the UPS stores, my wonderful long-term clients. And I just did a whole series of videos for them on customer service, actually. So, you not only are you a dear friend, you have been a wonderful supporter.
They're a great company.
Well, you've been a wonderful supporter of my work for years, because you get it. Everyone's the same. Now, anybody listening to this is thinking, we're paying each other to say these things. We're really not, everybody. Truly not. It's just, this is what a relationship looks like. This is what two people who actually believe in each other's message looks like. And I would say to everybody listening, who in your virtual team, which is my my thing, one of the things I teach, who in your world truly believes in your message? Well, Gene is one of the guys that we just have, ongoing mutual belief in the other's work. So now that I put that disclaimer out there, let me ask this question. I do a lot of work, as I started to say a moment ago, in the franchisor world, right? Franchisees and franchisors. I would think in this coming, whatever we're going to call this next wave, right? Post-COVID, whatever it's going to be, I would think the world of the franchisors and the franchise is going to explode, right? This reminds me of 2007 and 2008. This is like Groundhog to me again. Groundhog Day to me again. This was back when you and I met. This was back when LexisNexis, eliminated my position and, gave me a big chance to interview for a new position. And they already had it decided I was never going to, stay there. And entrepreneurs blew up. That's when I started. What's your thought on that, franchising?
I think from the franchise world, is just any other opportunity that entrepreneurs will have. I think that that my biggest thought on franchisers is that it's going to be a service-based experience for a franchise. Like the UPS stores, you use them as an example because they're a great client of yours. They're a service-based business. Franchisers in the back in the day would open up stores to sell things. Well, the world has changed. You can buy a lot of things online now more than ever before. And if you walk down 7th Avenue in New York City, That's 7th Avenue. Todd, do you guys watch like The Adventures of Mrs. Maisel on Amazon? Have you seen that?
Are you kidding? That's one of our favorite shows.
Yeah. So you see like New York City in the early 1960s. New York City does not look like that today. You see as she's walking down the street, there's shoe shops and dress stores, and they don't have any of that because you can buy all that stuff online now. But now what that's been replaced by is experiences, which means coffee shops and UPS stores and smoothie shops and laser tag and whatever, that stuff that you can't buy on Amazon. So the future of franchising is absolutely going to be strong, but it's going to be strong with the people that are selling experiences and services, right?
Well, and if I can give a plug for my client, the UPS stores, it's not about going in there to ship something. It's about going in there and working with somebody who's part of your community,
That's right.
service provider, and the franchisees who get that do great, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let me come back to this office space issue here for 1 second. Sure. So you don't see a day when cities just become ghost towns, right? When there's a big moat around the city and a big fence and overgrown weeds and buildings. I'm being very, of course,
I understand,
tongue in cheek. I don't see that day either. Our economy, I think, would absolutely never recover from that.
I mean, first of all, I think about Woody Allen was interviewed after like the 2008 crash about is New York ever going to recover? And he was like, of course it's going to recover. It's New York, And you saw Jerry Seinfeld wrote something last summer, about New York, always going to be New York. And I New York, just as a representation of all cities around the country. The fact of the matter is that people like to congregate in urban areas. People like to hang out with people. Right. It's a human thing. So the cities are not going to go away. And even though if you walk around Manhattan right now, it's kind of a ghost town, it's pretty depressing. Do we have any doubt in our mind that within the next 5 years, it is going to be back and bigger than ever, because it's just New York, and the same for Chicago, Philly, Boston, and all those other towns. Now, does that mean that people, won't be working remotely more? There's more incentive for smaller towns or smaller, places where you can move to and work remotely from. I think that plenty of people will be doing that too. But this is a big country. It's a big country.
Well, and that's just it. And I mean, look, you and I both live in Center City, Philadelphia. Yep. I can't even imagine not being able to go to, Schlesinger's, where you and I like to feel. I mean, not that I'm giving them a plug necessarily. I do like their food, or any of the other places that you and I just like to, frequent. And I mean, I know that, we're all rammy from being locked in. All right, let me switch gears with you again a little bit. Okay. So from the world of the entrepreneur, of which you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, really, everybody's an entrepreneur, a partner in a law firm, a partner in an accounting firm, because really at the end of the day, we're all running our own businesses, right? Whether you work for a big company or you're doing it like I am and like you are. 2 or 3 pieces of quick clipped sound bites advice for the entrepreneur. Like what's top of mind for you right now?
So a couple things. First of all, if you're an entrepreneur, just like I think, Todd, you've realized, you got to delegate. You have to delegate. I mean, there are too many entrepreneurs that I meet that try to do too many things on their own, and you are not an expert at you are an expert at what you do. So open up your pockets, invest in other people, build that virtual team that you talk about, and delegate roles. So that's like the number one thing that you have to do. Number 2 is about being an entrepreneur is stop considering entrepreneurism as some kind of romantic thing that you're doing. It is a hard, painful, cold world out there. I mean, Todd, you are super successful as a speaker, and yet you and I both struggle every day. We're battling for more work. We're battling competition.
Oh my God, you were speaking you were singing my song.
And so whenever I hear people come to me saying, "Oh, I just thought I could be my own boss and I can, start my own business and then have, oh, it'll be great. I'll be saving the world," and whatever. Like, first of all, just wake up and realize that nobody is going to be just giving you money. So you have to prepare yourself for a very tough, cold world out there if you're going to start and be an entrepreneur. And more importantly, don't think that you have to, whatever you're going to sell has to be a sexy thing to sell. The people that I know that make the most money are the ones that sell the most unsexy things, because they're profitable. So it's fine that if you sell things that aren't, you aren't that sector. So those are just some of my thoughts. If you're going to start up a business, or even as you are an entrepreneur right now, make it profit driven. Make sure that you're delegating your work, and then brace yourself. One final thing I'll just kind of finish with is that if you are going to start up a business, or even if you're struggling running your own business, you mentioned about mental health. It is just so important to have a good work-life balance. And I know a lot of people that I have a few clients that see psychologists or therapists just on their own to talk to. It's so important to have some type of outlet, because you don't want to have your work consume you. And I've seen a lot of people go out of business because it becomes a 24-hour job. Life is too short.
As I've said, kiddingly and not so kiddingly, so I came out of the womb with my first referral slip to a therapist. 50. I talked to a therapist today. It is an incredible balancing experience for me. I have been for years off and on. And, I think this is such, and I'll tell you, I so hate these cliches, and I almost used the word unprecedented, and I was going to smack myself, right? I'm so sick of the cliches, unprecedented and pivot and blah, 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 blah. If I hear it one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. But these times are just so unique to all of it. There, I come up with a new word, so unusual to all of this, that this is what I'm getting at. I think all these business leaders, and I'll say this to HR people in particular, we haven't even begun to see the long-term impact of health issues that this year, or looks like it's going to be year and change, is going to produce. All this money saving, I think, is going to be spent. I think I'm curious what your thought is on this, Gene. I was saying to somebody the other day, I think health insurance companies, they're going to have to rethink how they provide coverage for mental and emotional health, because that is going to go off the charts.
And I think a lot of people are realizing the benefits. When I realized it, Todd, was when my wife and I were trying to have our first kid, we went through like over 2 years of infertility.
That's in the dark ages.
What's that?
In the dark ages.
In the dark ages, right. So this back in the 90s. And they were, and it was very, very tough, more so on Angela, my wife, than it was for me. But it's very emotional. And she said she wanted to go and see a therapist who specialized in infertility. And I'm like, oh, come on, we don't need, what are these, whatever. Finally, she dragged me along. And Todd, we went to a half dozen sessions. We went to this woman who, number one, she specializes in infertility. So this is like what she does. It's not just somebody who doesn't know what they're talking. Number two is that we're paying her to be she has no agenda. She has no emotional baggage. She's not a family member or a friend. She's just listening to the issues and then talking through the issues, just as a paid professional to hear me out and hear my wife out. And it was an eye-opening experience, because it made me realize that good therapists, good psychologists, even if it's a good coach that you have, these are people that should be coming to you as just an outside professional that you can talk to about your business and your life and your balance and your family. And they can give you, they don't have an agenda. They can just talk to you and help you through that. And it really made me appreciate the value of having that kind of counseling. And I think you're right. Mental health is going to be a very, very big, listen, just before more than $1.5 trillion. No, I'm sorry, $1.5 billion, not a trillion. $1.5 billion, $1.5 billion has been invested in mental health startups this year from venture capital funding. And that's an all-time high. And I think we're just seeing that at the beginning.
And I think, as I said, I think in terms of, I think there's a lot that hasn't even begun to be written, both from a legal perspective and a wellness perspective. I had a wonderful lady, Heather Hirsch, on a few months back, and oh my goodness, it's back in May, my Toddcast series, when I launched the Toddcast. And she's a psychologist, and her company is Thrive Wellness, and this is all she talks about. And this was back in May. We were talking about the looming crisis, right? And we didn't even think nobody thought it was going to go this long. I mean, nobody ever dreamed. I remember a conversation you and I had last April.
I probably said by the end of the summer we're all good.
You said exactly. You said by September we'll all be back on airplanes again.
Yep, that's what I said.
And I remember it vividly. I remember I was standing outside walking over to Whole Foods. I remember having a conversation with you. In fact, I think I was standing across from your sister's medical office, which is, just a few blocks away from me. And when you said that, and I remember looking inside going, is he right? Actually, I've taken a few trips. I'm actually heading down to Houston on Monday to see some clients. I'm being very controlled. I actually did my first live gig 2 weeks ago in West Virginia. It was all set up appropriately. It was socially distanced. It worked out actually really, really well. So what I've seen from a speaker's perspective is there are ways to do this, right? If you want to do it, organizations are willing to work with you. I think the job I wouldn't want to be in for the last year is somebody selling event planning space in Las Vegas. I think that would be a tough world to be in. That would be like the cancellation department. But you know what? Last March, in one 4-day period, 80% of my booked business evaporated. So we've all been there, but it'll all come back. I'm developing new things. I think what I'm hearing from you, Gene, is the watchword, the call sign. The word of the day is reinvention, reinvention, reinvention. Don't get stale. The market is going to catch up to us. I mean, those of us like you and me, and I'm very proud of what I've done, and I'm proud of you. I love, and so many of my speaker friends, not as many as I would like, who have reinvented. I think the market is now going to catch up to us.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Todd, I just unsolicited advice for you. Your setup is fantastic. What you're doing is the right thing. Keep an eye out because there are new technologies coming and out there for Zoom and for what is called it's called. In fact, you know what? While I've got it here, I hope you don't mind me if you just
because my final closing question was going to be, I know you also have your thumb on technologies, on what's new.
So this one is called, I'm going to tell you this one. It's called, I got to spell it for you because it's called MMHMM. Okay. And it is just one example of a tool. It's a Zoom tool that can not only give you animation, like how you're talking right now, it can float your talking points around you. It can bring an animation around you as well. It's designed to spruce up Zoom presentations, right? And I think we're only on the very beginning of this because you said you've got another camera there. And I noticed you reached over to switch the cameras, three cameras, right? Yeah. So it'll be easier to set up. You'll have, there's the remote control in your hand. There are companies that are now developing this where you could just flip just by your hand, just flip camera to camera type of thing. Yeah. I guess my point is that you're doing this right now. You're going to look back at your setup now, 2 years from now, and be like, oh my God, that was like the dark ages.
We're going to say, wow, that was so 2021.
I know. But I guess my advice to you and to any other speaker who's doing this is keep your mind open for this stuff. And when you hear this stuff, try it out, use it, because I'm telling you, the smart speakers will be jumping all over this stuff. And they're the ones that will make their presentations that much more engaging and fun and all that. You know what I want to be doing when I speak is if I talk about cash flow tips or something like that, as part of a presentation, I want it to be where I can then be thrown into the middle of a factory. You know what I mean? And I could be talking as if there's a factory around me and pointing it out. And then I switch to another topic and it takes me to another place. And I've got that going on around me, very much like virtual reality kind of looking. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's going to happen as well. It's not here yet. And I think those will be really fun types of presentations to do. So,
well, Gene, listen, I needed personally, and I'm sure the one person listening to this live, or 3 people, whatever it might be, but it's going to get posted and it'll be on my Toddcast site. We needed a dose of optimism this morning. I definitely did. I every single day, I find it a little bit harder to get that same level of juice going. I was kidding with a friend the other day, and my wife, yells at me constantly about the amount of coffee I drink. I said, 2 cups used to keep me going. Now I feel like I need a pot, and I'm just barely have the juice to, the energy to keep going. And certainly I'm not a guy who, needs jacked up too much. But even at my advanced age, I still have a lot of good energy. Now, listen,
I have to say to you, Todd, one of the things that's helped me through this, I do like to read. I like to watch a lot of TV, but I like to read, and I like to read some history, and it really does put things when you read it, So like I finished a book recently called The Splendid and the Vile. Which is named by a guy named Eric Larson, who's written a bunch of other great books.
Sure. And the Devil's something.
The Devil's Garden, right? And that's the Beast in the Garden or whatever it's called. Anyway, this Splendid and the Vile is about Churchill's first year in office in 1940. Okay, and you think we got problems now? Imagine living in London during the Blitz, where tens of thousands of people were dying each week. Everything's being bombed out. You're being bombed by the Germans, and there was this threat of invasion. Because that's what everybody thought, that Germany was just going to invade. So you think things are bad now? Life is good. Do you know what I mean? We're okay now. It just puts things into perspective.
It does. And I'm actually reading John Meacham's book on John Lewis right now.
Okay.
And I love John Meacham, and he's like on that list of authors I've always wanted to meet. And maybe Pat Conroy was the other one, but he passed away sadly a few years back, and I'm just a big fan of his work.
Right.
And I have to tell you that I think we're always looking for ways to divert. I'm a big TV watcher. I can't even, someone said to me the other day, "Have you seen the so-and-so show?" I said, "Is it on Netflix or Hulu?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Well, then I don't watch network TV anymore because it just pales in comparison, right? Who wants to watch commercials?
I know.
Who cares? So I think we're all looking for ways to keep the vital juices up. And I think your point about reading is a great diversion. My wife, Karen, reads almost every night. I lay in bed and I unfortunately watch videos. I'll tell you what I've been watching a lot of is on YouTube. They have these amazing videos of automobile manufacturing plants, and they're highly detailed. And I've always been fascinated by that. Like, the logistics, how you get this engine to this car with these wheels exactly at the right moment, exactly on time. Supply chain is fascinating stuff to me. I know
that's fascinating.
Yeah, I know that makes me kind of a nerd, but
that's funny. Now I just watched on YouTube literally just last night, because I like to watch and listen to a lot of stuff on YouTube. Like Kennedy's speech to the nation, announcing the Cuban Missile Crisis. And again, I just watch it, and it puts you back into that time. And I like having perspective to say, like, as bad as this has, been this thing, let alone politically stuff that's going on. I can be like, listen, this stuff has happened since the dawn of human time. Yes. Imagine living during the Cuban Missile Crisis and hearing this speech from your president. You must have been freaking out. Well, it's all relative. It's all relative.
And I'll just say one more thing on that, since we're a little off topic, but you and I do this so well together. I think about what's happened, and I'm not bringing politics into this at all. I will just say, I'm looking at all the anger in the country right now. And part of me thinks, what are you so angry about? You're alive, you have a job, your kids, for the most part, are hopefully getting a reasonable education. You have healthcare benefits.
Yep.
What exactly have you lost?
I know. I know.
Makes you so angry about being in this glorious country we live in, right? I mean, we are far from perfect, God knows, but I'm just grateful. I'm a cancer survivor, as you know. I am grateful to get up every day and just say, I am still beating it up, right? And
Yep, I agree, and that's exactly the right attitude to have. And I just remember, like, an uncle of mine died a couple years ago. He was in his 80s, and I remember he lived through the war in England. And I asked him, I'd be like, so, would you prefer to be living like back in the good old days, or today? And he looked at me like I was out of my mind. He's like, today, of course. You kidding me? Yeah. Look at all what we have. We have to just appreciate that. We will get through these things. The economy, of course, is going to come back, and it will come back strong.
Yes.
For those of you that are in the speaking business, you will be fine. But like I said, you should be taking advantage of some of these great new opportunities. I think COVID has accelerated a lot of these things, a lot of trends that were already happening, like virtual and e-commerce. Take advantage of them. You're doing it.
They'll be writing about the upside to all of this.
Yeah.
one day. And while we don't feel it now, and I'm certainly no advocate of everybody going home forever, because I'm with you in that people desperately need people. I know people who are quote unquote introverts who are literally dying to go back into an office just to be away, just to get that, you know, that break. You know, we're not meant to be locked up like this 24/7. Gene, I love you, man. We've been friends a long time. You even though I hardly ever see you, you're one of those friends out there that I know if we need each other, we pick up the phone. It's like it was yesterday. It was no big deal. I'll see you back here in Philly, you know, this weekend, next week, whoever. We'll grab lunch. We're going to have you back on if you'll give my massive audience of 4 here, if you'll give us a little more of your brilliance, because you have so many interesting things to talk about. Any final closing remarks on technology or the future or hope or being positive, all of which you exude? Go.
I think we said it all. You know, having work-life balance, mental health, being prepared for the future, pivoting, taking advantage of some of these trends. And like I said, we'll have this conversation a year from now, Todd, and this whole year will be quite a memory to have. But we'll move forward from there. And I look forward to seeing everybody out and about.
Me too.
In Vegas.
I'm going to be in Vegas in at the end of May at the moment for the AED National Summit. They're having me back. So
there you go.
Hey, everybody, I'm Todd Cohen. A special thanks to my awesome, amazing, well-rounded, knows everything about something or something about everything, Gene Marks. We should all have a friend and a colleague who has your back like Gene has mine. And I got to tell you, that you cannot put a price tag on. So, Gene, thank you for that.
Thanks.
And everybody, I'll be back with another Toddcast, I don't know, eventually. And we're going to have Gene back on again, and we're going to talk just about technology and sort of these up and coming. I'm going to ask you to do your top 10 tools that we should be looking at to make our lives easier. Email me the name of that company, or or whatever it is. And everybody, this will be posted on all the social media channels really, really soon. I'm Todd Cohen. Have a great day. Have a profitable day. Stay awesome. Get the hell out of your house and go see another human being. Peace.